Intermediate Algebra Mid-Course Assessment, questions number 23 and 24. Question number 23 reads, the revenue for a small company is given by the quadratic function 11t squared plus 14t plus 890, where t is the number of years since 1998 and the function of t is in thousands of a dollar. If this trend continues, find the year after 1998 in which the company's revenue will be $1,907. Round to the nearest whole year. So I'm going to plug into this equation this 1907, which equals 11t to the second plus 14t plus 890. I'm going to subtract the 1907 off so that I take the left side of the equation down to 0. So I subtract it out and I end up with the trinomial 11t squared plus 14t minus 1017. Now instead of factoring, I'm going to use the quadratic formula to solve for this equation. So when I look at this equation up above, I see that I have an 11 in the A position, I have a 14 in the B position, and in the C position I have a negative 1017. So I'm going to plug it into the quadratic formula here and solve. So let's pull it down a little. So I'm going to plug in here the negative 14 for the B plus or minus the square root of 14 squared minus 4 times my A position, which is 11, times my C position, which is a negative 1017. This is overall being divided by 2 times my A position, which is 11. So now that I have it plugged in, I can begin to solve. So 14 squared is going to be 1960, and then a 4 times an 11 times a negative 1017 is going to create, I'm going to take this negative to make a positive, is going to create 44,748. So now I can sum these two center numbers together. Also I took the 2 times 11 to make the 22. So I'm going to sum them together and I end up with the square root of 44,944. The square root of 44,944 is 212. So now I've got a situation before I can go any further where I need to set up two separate problems. I need to create one that's summing and one that's subtracting. So here's the one that's summing. It's a negative 14 plus the 212 divided by 22. On the other side I have the subtraction problem of a negative 14 minus a 212 divided by 22. Let's pull this down. So these simplify to 198 divided by 22, which is 9, and a negative 226 divided by 22, which comes out to a negative 10.27 with a repeat bar. I have 27 that continues to repeat, so I used a repeat bar. Now when I look at it, it doesn't make sense to have the negative number. I'm wanting to move forward in years, so I'm going to be using the positive value. The negative one is not needed. So I take 1998 plus the 9 and it comes out to 2007. Going on to question number 24, it says to graph. I have a y equals an x squared minus a 6x plus 9. So looking at this one, it's a quadratic equation, so it's going to be graphing a parabola. So what I'm going to do is pick some values. Now y is already isolated, so I'm just going to pick values for x and solve. So over here I've created a little bit of a table, and I've decided for the first one that I was going to calculate a 0. So if I come down here, I take that formula, that y equals x squared minus 6x plus 9, and I plug in a 0 everywhere I see an x. So I solve down and I end up with y is equal to 0 minus 0 plus 9, or y is equal to 9. So my y is equal to a 9. So I come up here, I put it in my table, I came over here and I graphed it on my graph. So 0, 9, and I put a point. And I labeled it. Don't forget to label your points. And then I decide to put a 1 on the x to see where that line's going to start to go. So I come down here, I plug a 1 in, and I have a 1 times a 1 to create a 1, a 6 times a 1 to make a 6 plus 9. So I sum those first two together, I get a -5 plus 9. Sum those together, and I find that my y is a 4. So I come back up here, put that 4 in the table. Let's come over here and graph it. So I end up with come out 1, come up 4, make a point, and label it 1, 4. So this thing looks like it's coming off, generally like it's going to go towards the other side. I'm going to see if it's going to pass, this parabola is going to pass the x-axis. So when I kind of look at it, if I look at its general directory, a 2 isn't going to get me all the way down there. And if I kind of look at it as a line kind of coming out, a 3 might get me there. Now in this, I know it's already graphed, we can see a 3 got me there, but that's how I decided to take the 3 instead of the 2. So I took a 3. I could have taken the 2, I just would have seen that I need to go a little further, so I took the 3 next. I plug it in and I solve out. So 3 times 3 to get a 9, 6 times 3 to get an 18, plus 9. So -9 plus 9 equals 0. So it puts me right on the x-axis. So I want to see now if I'm going to go past it. So I pick a number that's a couple of more over from the 3, so I just add 2 more to that 3 to go to a 5 now. And I'm going to plug a 5 in and see if I'm turning back up or if I'm still going down. So I plugged a 5 in. I end up with a 25 minus a 30 plus 9, -5 plus 9 to get a 4. So now I've got another point over here. So I've got the 5 to the 4. So there's another point. So now I see that this thing has actually turned. Now this is just going to get me part of that u. So I'm going to get one more point so that I can kind of finish out this parabola. So I'm going to pick a 6 now. I'm going to plug it in there. So a 6 squared minus a 6 times a 6 plus a 9. So 36 minus 36 plus 9. 0 plus 9. So I end up with a 9. So I come back up here. I put it in my table. I put that last point on. Now I have enough to create my parabola. I draw it in there. I include my arrows at the end because this thing is continuing out on both sides, out to infinity. And I've completed my graph.